Today we're going to revise technology, the invention of chocolate, gum, chips, a dishwasher, microwave, a vacuum cleaner, the toilet, and the light bulb. Chocolate is one of the world's best loved foods. As well as scoffing countless of chocolate cakes, cookies and desserts, we eat billions of chocolate bars every year. Yet, it all comes from a nasty tasting bean. From about 2,500 years ago, the Mayans and Aztecs people who lived in what is now Mexico roasted cacao beans and mixed them with water and spices to make a drink called chocolate. They thought it was the drink of gods and used it in religious ceremonies. They also used the precious cocoa beans as money. When the Spanish invaded Aztec lands in the 1500s, they tried cocoa, but they called it chocolate. They didn't like the bitter taste, so they added sugar and heated it up. They had invented hot chocolate. But in the 1700s, special chocolate cafes had sprung up across Europe. For centuries, Europeans had their chocolate as a drink. In 1847, Francis Fry, who belonged to a famous family of chocolate sellers, decided to make solid chocolate you could eat. The first chocolate bars were a bit chewy and gritty, but chocolatiers kept experimenting to create better and better chocolate. People have been chewing rubbery tree sap since prehistory. The chewing gum we know today, though, dates from 1869, thanks to a meeting between a Mexican rebel leader and a US inventor. Humans have a natural urge to chew. That's why we chew pencils and fingernails. And since ancient times, people have looked for chewy stuff to pop in their mouth, such as a kind of tree sap called chicle. In the 1800s, in America, you could buy spruce gum or paraffin wax for chewing. But it wasn't very nice. It was hard, crumbly, and tasted bad. All that changed when Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, a Mexican rebel leader and dictator, was thrown out of Mexico after he lost power. He came to stay with an inventor friend, Thomas Adams, in New York City in 1869. Santa Anna may have lost his job as a politician, but he had a plan to make some money. He brought a loaf of chewy chicle from Mexico, hoping that his inventor friend could use it in place of rubber to invent a new kind of tire. It seemed that the chicle was useless. In his frustration, Adams decided to throw all the chicle into the local river. But before he did, he stopped at a local store and saw a girl buying some paraffin wax gum. Adams suddenly had a brainwave. The chicle, which the Mexican had used for centuries, would make great chewing gum. Adams and his son Tom set to work. They made the chicle into chewing gum lozenges, wrapped them in bright tissue paper, and took them to a local sweet shop. They were so popular, they sold out in days. Adams soon patented a gum-making machine and opened a chewing gum factory. Today, gum is chewed around the world. There's bubble gum too, extra stretchy gum, invented in 1928 by Walter Diemer. In fact, so many people chew gum now that we've had to invent new machines that would clean all the chewed gooey mess off the streets. Crisps were invented by the aptly named George Crumb, a chef at a super smart restaurant. Crumb came up with crisps thanks to a grumpy customer's complaint. Cornelius Vanderbilt, a famous railroad millionaire, visited the restaurant in 1855. Vanderbilt ordered some French fries, but when they came, he hated them. He sent them back to the kitchen, moaning that they were far too thick and chewy. He wanted his fries thinner and crispier. In the kitchen, the chef George Crumb made some thinner, crispier fries especially for Vanderbilt. But Vanderbilt sent them back again, saying that they still weren't thin enough. This time Crumb was really annoyed. To teach the fusspot a lesson, he sliced some potatoes as thin as he could, fried them for far too long until they were brown and crispy, and threw salt all over them. You can guess the rest. Vanderbilt loved the crispy, crumbly fries and ordered more. Word of Crumb's creation spread fast, and soon ultra-thin fries were this restaurant's signature dish. The crisp bag was invented by crisp factory owner Laura Scudder in 1926. She noticed that crisps in a tin or tub often went stale, so she began making bags out of wax paper and sealed them with a hot iron. Crisp bags today are still made in the same basic design, although they are now made out of plastic instead of paper. Few inventions can be more loved than the dishwasher, which saves you from doing the dishes. Women have done most of dishwashing, so it's not surprising it was a woman who invented the dirt-busting device. Josephine Garris Cochran was a wealthy society lady living in Illinois, USA in the early 1880s. As a rich woman with plenty of servants, she had plenty of servants. She didn't have to wash her own dishes at all. But she did, because she was tired of her servants being careless and chipping her valuable plates and cups. But Josephine still hated washing the dishes as much as anyone. It took hours and made her hands wrinkled, and she wished there was a machine to do it for her. Eventually, she declared, "If no one else is going to invent a dishwashing machine, I'll do it myself." Josephine had learned about engineering from her father, John Garris, a famous builder, and her grandfather, John Finch, an inventor. So she set up a workshop in her backyard and started inventing. When her husband died in 1883, making her less wealthy, she worked even harder. Finally, she perfected a brilliant design. Josephine Cochran's dishwasher worked by squirting hot soapy water heated in a boiler at the dishes. Then it rinsed them with clean water. The dishes were held in a wire rack. Josephine patented her invention in 1883 and showed it at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, a huge science and culture exhibition, where it won an award. She set up a business to make dishwashers and sold them to lots of hotels and restaurants. Her company, Cochran's Crescent Washing Machine Company, eventually became KitchenAid, a company which still exists today. Before vacuum cleaners, there were two ways to clean your carpet: sweeping it with a broom or beating it with a stick. Both created clouds of choking dust. A vacuum cleaner uses a vacuum, an empty space, to create a sucking force that pulls in dust and dirt. English engineer Herbert Cecil Booth is often considered to be the true inventor of the vacuum cleaner. English engineer Herbert Cecil Booth is often considered to be the true inventor of the vacuum cleaner. His oil-powered cleaner, invented in 1901, used a motor pump to create suction. It was so huge, it had to be pulled from house to house on a horse-drawn cart. Assistants then put long tubes through the windows and used them to suck the dirt out of the house. Several inventors came up with similar vacuum cleaners, but the American caretaker James Spangler was the one that finally got it right. It was made from an electric fan, a wooden crate, a broomstick, and a pillowcase. Spangler sold his design to his cousin's husband, William Hoover, and he and Spangler went into business making vacuum cleaners. The simple, lightweight design made them a huge hit, and the Hoover Company sold millions of them. In some countries, domestic vacuum cleaners eventually became known as a Hoover. People keep inventing new ones. There's a Cyclone vacuum cleaner which has no dust bag and uses a spinning cone to separate the dirt from the air. In the 2000s, several companies brought out a robot vacuum cleaner. They roam around the house by themselves, cleaning as they go. You put your popcorn, pizza, or a nice big potato into the microwave oven, and after a few minutes, ding! It's done. Microwaves allow us to cook and heat food much faster than ever before. Microwaves are a type of electromagnetic wave, like light waves, radio waves, and X-rays. Electromagnetic waves have different wavelengths. For example, radio waves are long and X-rays are very short. Microwaves, despite their name, are quite long. One day, in 1945, a scientist at Raytheon, Percy Spencer, was working near a magnetron when he suddenly felt a strange warm sensation. A chocolate bar in his pocket had completely melted. How odd. Percy wondered what could have created the heat that melted his chocolate. To find out, he decided to test the magnetron some more. Microwaves cook by making water particles in food vibrate. The vibrating particles rub together, and this rubbing or friction creates heat. Microwaves are not radioactive, unlike shorter electromagnetic waves such as gamma rays, so they don't harm people or do anything dangerous to the food. Percy soon designed a proper working microwave oven, and his company Raytheon started making it. The first model, the 1161 Raider range, was too big to use at home. It was nearly 2 meters tall and weighed as much as 4 men. But it was amazingly useful for hotels and restaurants. In 1967, Raytheon launched small microwave ovens for the home. At first, many people were scared of the microwaves, thinking they might leak or be poisonous. But gradually they realized that no one was being harmed, and microwaves became popular. Now, almost every home has one. The more people there are in the world, the more we need toilets to carry away our waste. Flushing toilets are an essential everyday invention. Imagine life without them. The first simple flushing toilets date from thousands of years ago. The ancient Indian city of Harappa and the Minoans of ancient Greece both had indoor toilets 4,000 years ago. They were flushed into underground drains using a jug of water or a flow of water from a stream. The Romans had public toilet blocks with rows of holes to sit over. Water flowed along a channel underneath to wash everything away. Although ancient peoples has gone to the trouble of designing proper toilets, their inventions were gradually forgotten about. In the Middle Ages, most people used a chamber pot, then emptied it onto the street. Yuck! Then, an English watchmaker, Alexander Cummings, invented a toilet with a brilliant new feature, the S-bend. Before this, waste fell straight down into a sewage tank or channel, and stinky smells could easily waft back up. The S-bend used a curved pipe to trap some clean water, sealing the toilet off from the smelly sewers beneath. From then on, toilets took off, and many inventors came up with the improved versions. Although modern toilets still have the same basic design with a cistern and a S-bend. Toilet paper. People have used all sorts of things as toilet paper: leaves, grass, corn cobs, sponges, and newspaper. The first specially made toilet paper was invented in the US in 1857 by Joseph C. Gaiety. It was softened with aloe gel and had his name printed on every sheet. When it was too dark to read, you'll flick a switch. A light fills the room thanks to the light bulb. But this brilliant invention took many years to perfect. The English scientist Humphrey Davy first made an electric light in 1801. But this was way too big for everyday use and was never developed. In the end, two inventors on opposite sides of the Arctic raced each other to bring their own light bulb designs to the public. Around 1850, an English scientist, Joseph Swan, began working on his light bulb. He used a carbonized thread filament inside a vacuum-filled bulb, but it took years to get a real good vacuum inside the bulb. Finally, in 1878, Swan patented his light bulb and demonstrated it to the public. But the same year, the great United States inventor Thomas Edison had set to work on the light bulb too. He came up with a similar design to Swan's and patented it in America in 1879. At first, Edison and Swan argued over who really invented the light bulb, but in 1882 they went into business together and formed the Edison-Swan United Company to make and sell light bulbs and lamps. Lighting through the ages. Creating light to see by when the sun and the moon weren't shining was one of our earliest inventions. 4,000 years ago we invented the first simple torches, bundles of sticks tied together and set alight. From cooking animal plants, people found that oils burnt well. They soaked dried moss in fish oil, plant oil or animal fat and set it alight inside hollowed out stone. In 3000 BC, about 5,000 years ago, the ancient Greeks developed a pottery lamp with a closed oil chamber and a hole for a wick. And the Native Americans made a candle out of fish oil. That's so cool. Candlefish. It's a type of fish. It's a type of fish, guys. The Native American used a type of oily fish as a lamp. So they just put a... That's so weird. Okay. And 3000 BC, the first candles were made in Egypt and the Greek islands of Crete. A long wick was dipped into melted beeswax and animal fat. The argand lamp in 1780s, a Swiss chemist, Aimé Argand, improved on a simple oil lamp by adding 3 things. He added an oil tank, a glass chimney, an adjustable wick that could be made longer or shorter, making his argand lamp much brighter than a basic oil lamp, and it could go for much longer. And then in 1792, gas lighting was invented by a Scot, William Murdoch, who used it to light his own home. Soon gas was being used to light whole buildings and cities. A lamplighter would light the gas lamps every evening and then put them out in the morning. In 1809, the first electric light was the arc light invented by Humphrey Davy. And then of course we have Swan and Edison's invention a few years later, and in 1965 LEDs or light emitting diodes were invented. These low energy, long lasting, very small bulbs can give out colored light.
That's all, folks.